There's a new Cold War erupting, and it's happening in the coldest place on Earth. As the ice disappears, Russia isn't just moving in. They're building an Arctic fortress with warships that can smash through anything, and outposts that watch the horizon for hundreds of miles. The United States is scrambling to respond.
You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
But here's the terrifying truth. America doesn't have the tools to win this fight, and that's where the shock comes in. The survival of North America's northern frontier may now depend on Canada, a country with a fleet of aging ships and a front door to the continent that could be forced wide open. So how did the most powerful militaries on Earth allow this to happen? And is North America's defense simply falling behind? Or has it already been compromised from within? Have you ever seen a race where one side has a fleet of supercars and the other is trying to keep up on a bicycle from the 1970s? That's pretty much what's happening at the top of the world right now in the Arctic. It's a massive showdown between Russia and the United States, and believe it or not, the US is the one with the old bicycle. This isn't just about bragging rights. It's about control over new shipping routes and a treasure trove of resources. Let me break it down for you. Russia is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They have around 40 active icebreakers. These are the monster ships you need to smash through thick Arctic ice. And get this, at least 6 of them are nuclear powered, meaning they can stay out at sea for a very, very long time. On top of that, since 2007, Russia has built or seriously upgraded 27 military bases above the Arctic Circle. They are building a literal fortress of ice. So what about the United States? Well, here's where it gets a little embarrassing. The US has only 2 heavy-duty icebreakers, and one of them, the Polar Star, is a complete relic. It was built way back in 1976. That ship is almost 50 years old. The US Coast Guard itself says it needs at least 8 or 9 more ships just to do its job properly in the Arctic. They are facing a massive shortfall. This huge difference in power is creating a very tense situation. Russia can move wherever it wants in the Arctic whenever it wants. The US simply can't. So how can the US possibly catch up? Well, they can't do it alone. They're being forced to look north for help. But the country they're turning to has its own huge problems and an even older ship. That story is coming up next, and it involves a multi-billion-dollar gamble. So with the United States falling so far behind, you might be wondering who else is in the game. That brings us to America's upstairs neighbor, Canada. Truth be told, Canada has the second largest icebreaker fleet in the world with 18 ships. That sounds impressive, right? But here's the catch. Many of these ships are old, like really old. Most are approaching 40 years of service, and their single most powerful icebreaker, the Louis S. St. Laurent, was built in the 1960s. It's even older than America's Polar Star. Facing this reality, Canada knew it had to do something big. So they launched a massive project to modernize their fleet called the Polar Icebreaker Project. We're talking about a plan to build 2 brand new world-class icebreakers. The price tag for this is staggering, somewhere between 7.5 and 8.5 billion Canadian dollars. This is one of the biggest shipbuilding projects in the country's history, and these new ships are going to be absolute beasts. One of them, the Polar Max, is already being built. They started cutting the steel for it in Finland in August 2025, and it's set to be finished in Quebec by 2030. These ships will be able to smash through 8 feet of solid ice, travel for 270 days without stopping, and hit speeds of 23 miles per hour in open water. They are a huge leap forward. But here's the cliffhanger. 2030 is still years away. Until then, Canada, and by extension, North America, is relying on a ship that was built when the Beatles were still together. And during this time, Russia is launching even more nuclear-powered ships. To close this gap and speed things up, Canada has joined a secret pact with the US and a surprise European nation. You're going to want to hear about this alliance. Okay, so we have Russia with a massive fleet, the US with a tiny aging one, and Canada racing to build new ships before its old ones fall apart. It's clear that Western countries are playing catch-up. They realized they couldn't do this alone, so they formed a new strategic team-up called the Ice Pact. That stands for the Icebreaker Collaboration Effort. This isn't just a friendly handshake. It's a formal deal between the United States, Canada, and a country you might not expect, Finland. Why Finland? Because believe it or not, they are the world champions of building icebreakers. The shipyard in Helsinki has built more than half of all the icebreakers on the planet. They are the experts, and now they are sharing their secrets with the US and Canada. This pact is a game changer. It's an admission that for decades the US and Canada let their specialized shipbuilding skills fade away. Now they're bringing in the Finnish pros to help them relearn how to build these complex vessels and fast. Canada's new Polar Max icebreaker is the first big project under this pact. A Canadian company is leading it, but they're using their shipyard in Finland to get the hardest parts done quickly and correctly. This alliance is a direct response to Russia's dominance. It's the West saying we need to work together if we're going to have any chance of keeping up. But even with this new teamwork, the entire reason they're doing this is because the Arctic itself is changing dramatically. What's being uncovered as the ice melts is the real prize everyone is after, and it's turning the top of the world into a strategic gold rush. So why all this fuss about icebreakers and bases in the middle of nowhere? What makes the Arctic so important all of a sudden? The answer is simple. The ice is melting, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. This big melt is opening up two massive opportunities that could change the world. Brand new shipping routes and a treasure chest of natural resources. For centuries, sailors dreamed of a shortcut between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic. Now that dream is becoming a reality. There are two main paths, the Northern Sea Route over Russia and the Northwest Passage through Canada. The Northern Sea Route is already a busy highway. It can cut the trip from Europe to Asia by up to 2 weeks, saving companies millions in fuel and time. In 2024, Russia saw a record 37.9 million tons of cargo move through its route. It's becoming a vital economic artery, especially for trade between Russia and China. The Northwest Passage through Canada is a different story. It's still a much tougher and more dangerous route with unpredictable ice. In 2024, only 18 ships made the full journey, mostly specialized vessels and cruise ships. It's not the commercial superhighway that the Russian route is becoming. This is a huge deal. Russia isn't just watching this happen. They are actively controlling their route with their giant icebreaker fleet and their network of bases. They're turning the Northern Sea Route into a toll road where they make the rules. This gives them immense power. But this new ocean map is also creating new problems. As the ice disappears, old arguments between neighbors are heating up, and it's forcing countries to draw lines on the water. The dispute between the US and Canada is one you probably never even heard of. You'd think that with Russia's massive presence in the Arctic, the US and Canada would be in total agreement on everything. But you'd be wrong. In fact, they have a major disagreement over the most critical piece of territory in the North American Arctic, the Northwest Passage. Here's the deal. Canada says the Northwest Passage runs through its own internal waters, period. That means they believe they have the right to control who passes through, just like a country controls who crosses its land border. They can set the rules and even deny passage to ships if they want to. It's a matter of national sovereignty for them. But the United States and many other countries see it differently. They say the Northwest Passage is an international strait. That's a legal term that means ships from any country have the right to pass through without permission as long as they keep moving. Under this rule, Canada could only enforce basic safety and environmental laws, but they couldn't stop a foreign vessel from using the passage. This isn't just a friendly argument. It creates a huge strategic problem. How can you have a united front against a rival like Russia when you and your closest ally can't even agree on who controls the front door? This dispute forces Canada to keep an eye on American ships in its own backyard. But this quiet disagreement is nothing compared to the very public shows of force happening every single year, where nations practice for a major northern showdown. And what these exercises reveal about Canada's own capabilities is the most shocking part of this story. To show the world they're serious about defending their territory, Canada runs a massive annual military drill called Operation Nanook. It's a huge deal where they invite their allies, the US, Britain, France, and others, to practice operating in the harsh Arctic conditions. Hundreds of troops, US destroyers, and even submarines show up. It's all about sending a message that they are watching and ready. To support these kinds of operations, you need bases, and Canada tried to build one. They started a project for a new naval facility in a place called Nanisivik. It was supposed to be a key hub, a place where Canadian and Allied ships could refuel and resupply deep in the Arctic. The project's cost ballooned to over $100 million. But here's the unbelievable part. After all that time and money, the facility is almost useless. Because of a massive design flaw, the giant fuel tanks they built are unheated. In the extreme Arctic cold, this is a disaster. It means the fuel could get contaminated or even turn to gel. As a result, this multi-million-dollar naval facility can only be used for about 4 to 5 weeks a year in the late summer. Think about that. Canada is spending billions on new ships that can operate year-round, but they've built a key refueling station that's closed for business for over 90% of the year. This isn't just an embarrassing mistake. It's a critical weakness. It shows just how difficult and expensive it is to operate in the North, and it highlights how Canada is being pulled into this rivalry not just by choice, but because its geography makes it the unavoidable front line of continental defense. With North America's defense resting on aging ships and ghost bases, the vulnerabilities couldn't be clearer. A billion-dollar gamble on ships that won't arrive until 2030, a refueling base so flawed it's only usable a few weeks a year, and allies still arguing over who controls the Northwest Passage. So here's the real question. Is Russia the greatest threat to the Arctic? Or is it the West's own failures that could hand Moscow control without a fight? Because in the end, Canada isn't just being pulled into this Cold War. It may be the nation that decides whether North America's Arctic frontier holds strong or collapses wide open. Let me know your thoughts. Like and subscribe because this Arctic fight is only just beginning.